Welcome everybody to the Careers Beyond Academia, which is hosted by Medicine by Design and Stem Cell Network. My name is Serna Bio, and I'm the Scientific Manager with Medicine by Design. The primary goal of these series is to expose as many trainees as we can to different job roles and responsibilities that are available after obtaining a degree in the life sciences field, and to start to understand the qualifications and experience necessary to secure such roles. Both Stem Cell Network and Medicine by Design have teamed up to host this series, and we aim to highlight a wide variety of careers available after the degree in life sciences. The past sessions will be posted on Stem Cell Network's YouTube, and we do have new sessions coming out almost monthly throughout the year. We also have several other training events that occur on a regular basis. Feel free to check out our websites and social media for opportunities offered both by Stem Cell Network and Medicine by Design throughout the year. And these would include workshops, seminars, and symposiums. We do have a Medicine by Design symposium coming up on December 6th. It is available to attend both in person and virtually. And this year, the theme is intentional innovation. And we have several invited speakers, including Derek Rossi, who's a co-founder of Moderna, as well as Peter Zanstra. So feel free to sign up. We still have some spots available. Also, feel free to sign up for the newsletters to get notified for upcoming opportunities. And again, these links will be available on our websites. Just some housekeeping rules here. The session will be recorded up until the second speaker's talk. The Q&A portion will not be recorded, just to allow for more organic discussion. Each speaker will have 10 to 12 minutes of presentation, and the questions can be saved for the Q&A portion, which we will have plenty of time for. Again, you can ask your questions either putting them in the Q&A box, or you can ask it live. You just have to raise your hand and we can unmute you. And with that, I would like to introduce our first speaker. So Dr. Ursula Nosi is a process development scientist at BlueRock Therapeutics. She leads a small team of research associates towards the development of manufacturing processes for stem cell expansion and banking, which is a critical requirement towards the production of stem cell-derived cell therapies. So without further ado, on to you, Ursula. Oh, just unmute yourself. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Technical glitches. So thank you, Sonam, and thank you to the Stem Cell Network, as well as Medicine by Design, for giving me the opportunity to speak at such an informative and I think critical. Sorry, just give me 1 second here. Critical event. So, Sonam, can I confirm with you that the slides are all good?
Yes, I do see your sort of the next slide. So it's a presenter mode. You might want to switch it over.
I will just go here. Okay.
That's perfect.
That's all good? Mm-hmm. Awesome. So hello, everyone. My name is Ursula Nosi, and I'm a process development scientist. And I wanted to take this opportunity to really orient you around my career trajectory and hopefully provide some insights into the role. So as Sonam mentioned, I am currently at BlueRock Therapeutics, and a company that's based out of Toronto. And I do have a degree, I do have my Ph.D. from the Physiology Department at the University of Toronto, where I extensively worked with stem cells as models of the early embryo in order to interrogate epigenetic mechanisms of cell fate and lineage specification. So just a little bit about my career timeline here. So I obtained my Bachelor of Science in 2012 from York University, and ultimately decided to pursue a PhD at the University of Toronto, doing really fundamental research on stem cell biology and RNA biology. And it was really during this time that I became involved within the stem cell ecosystem, and was able to make a lot of great connections by attending conferences and seminars, as well as outreach events like stem cell talks. And here I just wanted to highlight also a few additional activities that I think contributed to rounding off my experience and really diversifying my training. And this included teaching, as well as being an ambassador for the Department of Physiology. I was involved with the Graduate Student Association. I was on the organizing committee of the International Exchange Program in Developmental Biology, as well as being part of the Toronto RNA Club. And so at this time, I was I decided to pursue a postdoc, actually. It was a brief postdoc of 2 years, still at the University of Toronto, and really to advance my skill set and diversify my skill set a little bit, and really take on some more collaborative projects. And it was during this time that COVID happened, and so I was really lucky to be part of an interdisciplinary team of scientists that were developing a SARS-CoV-2 therapeutic. And it was really this experience that gave me insights into really that teamwork, the research from the perspective of teamwork, and working within, deliverables and timelines. And so as I was wrapping that up, I was contacted by a recruiter that was looking for a scientist at a new startup company called Serna Bio. And at Serna, they were really aiming to identify small molecules that interact with RNA structural modalities by integrating AI into the drug discovery process. And so I transitioned into this industry role and led the biological assay development efforts. And here I was internally promoted after 6 months to senior scientist, and I led a small team while wearing the multiple hats here that are typical with working at a startup. And then just after 1 year at Serna, I became aware of a position that opened up within BlueRock Therapeutics, a company who I'd been tracking since its launch in 2016. And I've been a scientist at BlueRock now for just over 1.5 years. So just a little background on BlueRock for those of you who may not know. We're a clinical stage company taking on the ambitious challenge of bringing allogeneic cell therapies to patients at a very high level. Our process begins with obtaining healthy donor blood and then reprogramming these cells into pluripotent stem cells through a process called reprogramming. We then use our proprietary bioprocesses to be able to differentiate these stem cells into the various cell types to be delivered into patients as the therapeutic modality. And so we do have a robust pipeline with programs spanning over 9 target diseases across 4 different areas, including immunology, cardiology, ophthalmology, and neurology. And very recently, actually, we celebrated a huge accomplishment of our DA01 program for Parkinson's, which showed positive phase 1 results in clinical trial with enrollment of phase 2 to begin in 2014. So that's actually very exciting. So what is process development? And I think to answer this, we can consider the overarching goal, which is to make large quantities of high quality cells in order to support patient need. So I described to you that the approach that BlueRock takes can be thought of or broken down into 3 main sort of bioprocesses. This would include the reprogramming of the donor blood cells into iPSCs, then generating large banks of these iPSCs, and then lastly, differentiate the iPSCs into the various cell types that are listed here. So in order to accomplish this goal, then we start with research and development, which is really where we establish process feasibility. So, for example, how will we differentiate an iPSC into a dopaminergic neuron? And this typically happens at a smaller scale. Then we move into process development, where we look at making each process robust, scalable, efficient, as well as safe. And this can look a lot different as a process than the established lab scale model, whereby we consider all the parameters that go into a scale up and what impacts this may have on the cells. And then finally, once we have a robust process, we do a technical transfer into our manufacturing. And it's really this that will enable us, this manufacturing scale that will enable us to produce the products that will eventually become the clinical material that will end up in a patient. So taking a deeper look into the scientist's role within industry, typically in advanced degrees, so a master's or Ph.D. in the biological sciences, biochemistry, bioengineering, or related disciplines are required. The levels, so whether it's a Ph.D. or a master's, can depend from and can vary from biotech to biotech, and the levels of experience required with a master's will also depend as well. So what I do in a sentence, as Serna mentioned, I do lead a small team of research associates to support the biomanufacturing of cell therapies by developing optimized, robust, and de-risked manufacturing processes for the generation of high-quality PSCs at scale. And so some skills that I think are technical to this role is, of course, proficiency in PSC biology and practical experience with mammalian cell culture platforms, particularly scale-up for process development roles. And this is for companies such as BlueRock and developing cell and gene therapies. Of course, experimental design, assay design, and being able to perform a risk analysis and a real understanding of process parameters and failure modes, I think, are critical, as well as data analysis and interpretation. So in terms of soft skills, complex problem solving, strategic thinking, and attention to detail, I think are critical for any science roles. But I think it's most critical to this type of a process development role, which seeks to control complex biologics. And then the ability to work in a fast-paced environment and be able to adapt to changing priorities while managing multiple projects, I think, are also critical in industry, since projects are evolving quickly and have result-driven milestones with go, no-go decision points and very tight deadlines. And of course, as well, communication and collaboration are key, because this is a team-based role. So other careers I considered were just academic principal investigator, as well as R&D scientist, so a different type of scientist within industry. So here I've just laid out some typical activities that are associated with my role to give a better idea of what my day-to-day looks like. So I would say that my role is fairly split between working in the lab and also being involved in planning and strategy. So it might not come as a surprise, but the execution of experiments, data analysis and interpretation, and drafting summary reports are a big part of the role. But as well, I develop the experimental plans and the designs, and I'm involved in the high-level planning of projects, as well as managing tasks of the research associates. So really making sure that the team is working well together, and that we're aligned on our milestones and how we will achieve them. A large portion of my role, or a large portion of my week, is also spent in meetings. And what these meetings might look like is, for example, meetings with KOL to discuss project feasibility, alignment meetings within and between teams to get feedback, communicating data findings to key stakeholders, as well as professional and personal development meetings with my direct reports through one-on-one meetings. And there's also a growth component. I tried to carve out some time to keep a pulse on what's happening on the scientific front. And this I do through dedicating time to review literature, attend conferences and seminars. So highlights and opportunities and challenges. Firstly, why my role is important. I think in any company that's rapidly growing, every single role is important towards driving progress, towards achieving the mission. But I think this quote that I've listed here very nicely describes really the criticality of the process development role. So process development is akin to the blueprint of a magnificent architectural marvel. Just as architects meticulously plan every brick, beam, and bolt, manufacturing experts meticulously optimize each step of the production process. In essence, process development is more than just a technical discipline. It's the heartbeat of manufacturing, pulsating with dedication, innovation, and an unwavering commitment to improving human lives. So that brings me to why I enjoy my role. I mean, given the description, I can speak at length about why I enjoy my work, particularly at a company like BlueRock, which emphasizes the core values that are akin to my own. But I'm also driven by the fact that the work is current and high impact. I spent many years during my Ph.D. doing fundamental basic research into stem cells, and to be a place that's transforming medicine and healthcare by delivering this therapeutic modality, I think is really inspirational to me. But in addition to that, the role provides ample opportunity to be challenged, come up with creative solutions, to innovate and continually learn from experts. And these were really walkaway points for me when considering careers outside of academia. And of course, there are challenges. Sometimes the workload can be unpredictable as we work with urgency to resolve critical issues amidst impending deadlines and deliverables. And we do work with live cells, and so they require daily attention. And so planning and sharing the workload, I think, is really critical to protect our personal time. The role also requires one to quickly adapt to changing situations as projects may pivot due to changing priorities. So that is a challenge. And finally, just managing the expectations between different teams and team members. In terms of future career trajectories, I think that an industry scientist role opens a lot of doors for different career paths, both within industry as well as looking at other industries rather than biotech. But at BlueRock specifically, there is a development ladder for the scientist position, which increases in responsibility and decision-making and learnings. And so finally, in terms of my career planning advice, I can't stress enough how important it is to really keep an open mind. So I'll go here first, keep an open mind and make informed decisions. So really look at what by doing, or in order to do this, I think evaluating and reevaluating, sitting and performing some introspective reflection of components that you love versus components that you don't care for in a role, versus components that you hate, right? And intersect these with your must-haves versus just wants in a role to really identify what it is that your career or your job would look like if it was up to you. And then keep an open mind, like I said, because there are elements to different roles and different organizations that might meet your analysis that you performed that maybe you didn't consider before. And I think being strategic, so what I mean by that is follow your passion, but also look at the landscape and try to tailor your own training and your experiences according to the roles that you seek. So look at job postings early to see what skills you might need to develop. And this is why time and doing this early is I think, so critical. And then seek network opportunities. I think everyone has stressed this, and I think we've all learned this, but it actually is very critical in the job search. So in terms of training for this role specifically, I think it's important to get comfortable with working in team settings by seeking collaborative experiences, practice the delivery of your logical framework. So everything makes sense in our own heads, but being able to really relay the rationale and the reasoning why you made a decision or a recommendation, I think, is really critical. And then get comfortable with constant feedback and be flexible. I think we work in teams, like in industry, we work with in teams. There's many stakeholders within that organization. And so really being open to feedback and integrating that into your day-to-day approach is critical. And I think finally, build a portfolio of your work. So this would be your unique value proposition. What makes you different than your peers? What makes you stand out? And why should the company appeal to you? So in all of that sort of analysis that you've done in your work, I think also update your resume and your LinkedIn. This is time consuming, but it's actually very critical. So start early and dedicate the due time, and implement within that updating of the resume, your skills and experiences and competencies, highlight those in a way that appeals to the industry employers while really highlighting your unique value proposition. And that is it for me. I'll pass it back to Sonam.
Great. Thank you so much, Ursula. That was a really nice overview of your career path. And I'm sure there's lots of questions, but do save them to the end of the Q&A portion. So we will now move on to our second speaker. I'd like to invite Shivali Joshi to take the stage now. Shivali is a development manager in the process and analytical development team at OmniaBio. She and her team are focused on analytical development for immunotherapy, as well as bioprocess and viral platforms. So welcome, Shivali.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Sonam, and I'm very thankful for this opportunity. Thankful to both Stem Cell Network as well as Medicine by Design. Hey, can you see my slides? I just wanted to confirm.
Yes.
So as Sonam mentioned, I am currently a development manager, mainly focusing on analytical development at an organization called OmniaBio. I think a lot of you here would have heard of CCRM, and OmniaBio spun out recently of CCRM. We are a CDMO, which means we are a contract development and manufacturing organization. So we help startups, smaller companies come in with their processes that, Ursula beautifully described what process development is. So they come in with their unique processes, and then we are the ones to scale them and manufacture clinical doses for them. So that's called commercial manufacturing. And that's the breadth of what OmniaBio can do, process development to commercial stage manufacturing. I have a PhD in biotechnology from the National Institute of Virology in India. And this is my quick career timeline here. So I finished my PhD in 2016 from the National Institute of Virology in India, working on hepatitis E vaccine development. After that, I went on to do my postdoctoral training at the University of Calgary, this time focusing on the hepatitis B virus and hepatitis B vaccine immunology. And my major postdoctoral project was actually in collaboration with GSK. They were the sponsors for the phase 4 clinical trial that I had worked on. After that, as a family, we decided to move from Calgary to Toronto, and I joined a startup company called ChipCare Corporation. I was there for about 1.5 years. This was a company that was trying to develop point-of-care T-cell diagnostics. At that time, it was really COVID time, so everyone was pivoting their technologies to COVID, and so we were also developing T-cell diagnostics against COVID-19 or for COVID-19 diagnosis. And then while I was still at ChipCare, I had the opportunity to talk to someone from CCRM, was made aware of an opportunity, and then eventually ended up joining as lead scientist 3 in January of 2022. In a few months, I was promoted to the development manager role that I'm currently in. And by then, CCRM had spun out this entity, CDMO called OmniaBio. So then I moved over to OmniaBio. So what is the typical background of a development manager? Usually, you need to have a PhD with 3 to 5 years of experience in the immunology area. Now that varies depending on what type of DM position you want to get into. It could be cell-based assays, viral assays, which was the case for me, but it could also be focused on bioprocess engineering. It could be focused on immunotherapy process development work. So what they ask for in every company is slightly different, obviously depending on the business needs. But in general, this is what is expected. If you have a master's degree, then it's going to be usually master's plus 8 to 10 years of experience, relevant experience. So I started off as a lead scientist 3, and then to move into the DM role, usually you need to have a couple of years of industry experience, just be in the system. You should understand the processes and the organization very well, I think, before you can get into a management position. So the potential salary range for an LS is usually 85 to 105K. The good thing now is I think BC has made it a rule that when companies post their jobs online, they do need to put in a band, a salary band. So please take advantage of that. That's good for anyone trying to look for new opportunities now. For the DM role, it usually starts at 110-ish, I would say, but it really varies with a lot of experience. And to me, the most important thing is the package. So you need to really see what's most important for you. Do you prefer working in a hybrid mode? How important are flexible work hours for you? What does the company's career development plans for employees look like? What is the bonus? So there is a ton of things. And I think it's not just the salary figure that you should be focused on, but the entire package. Look at it very holistically. That's really important. What do I do in a sentence? I manage a team of scientists to support internal and external client projects. So because we are a CDMO, as I mentioned before, we'll have clients. So these external companies who come to us with their processes are called clients. They are our clients. And so we need to support both projects, some that will progress our internal development work, and then some that will support the external work. Key skills for this role: people management, relationship building, strategic thinking, like a good technical breadth of knowledge, and then problem solving. What were the other careers I considered? So very, very early on, I wanted to do medicine. I was always sure I wanted to be in the biology side of things. But I also knew that I'm very interested in translational, application-oriented kind of work. So I just decided no for medicine, considering how many years it takes, without realizing at the time that PhD and postdoc is going to basically take the same number of years. But I was pretty sure I didn't want to get into academia. And so I mentioned what I do in a sentence is manage a team of scientists. But how do I do that? If I think about my day-to-day life in the company, all of my activities in general can be allotted or allocated to one of these buckets. So people management. So what does that look like on a day-to-day basis? I think Ursula also touched upon this briefly, but it's one-on-one meetings, weekly meetings with your direct reports. So I have 6 scientists reporting to me. Some of them are lead scientists, some of them are associate scientists. Being able to tailor your talk, your message to them in a way that they understand. Each one is unique, so that's quite a skill to develop, I think. With people, there's also some level of conflict resolution sometimes, which also takes up lots of energy and time. And most importantly is to develop the team. So because my team is the analytical development team, I need to ensure that we really are a good team delivering high quality assays to support our process teams, our quality control teams, and so on. And while doing this, to also develop these individuals themselves as well towards their own development goals. So yeah, it does take up a lot of time. The other second bucket would be cross-functional collaboration. So like I mentioned, we develop a process in the process development team. The analytical team then will develop assays that support the process, because this is the team that's going to determine if your product meets the efficacy required. Is it potent enough? Is it the right product you're looking at? What's the quality of the product? So that is with the process team and the QC team. But even other than that, because I'm involved in client interactions, then I'm supporting the business development team by like doing a variety of things. It could be writing blogs, it could be attending conferences, it could be showcasing our platforms, different ways. And we can talk about this later, maybe in the Q&A section. The third bucket is client and external communication. So this could be communication in any form. This could be meetings, this could be presenting our capabilities to clients, to funding agencies. It could be simply emails, but they also take a huge chunk of my time. And the final bucket is strategic thinking. So trying to come up with internal projects that address our gaps in the platform technology that we have to offer to clients. External clients, then there is things that we need to address even for external clients. We may need to procure a new technology. We may need to assess, evaluate the new and upcoming technologies. We may want to think about integrating different processes, different analytics, coming up with automation. So for example, these days in the cell and gene therapy world, automation is a key thing. So trying to think of what are the ways in which we can automate processes and allied analytics. So all these kind of strategic thinking questions, sometimes focused on the team, sometimes on the department, sometimes even for the organization on the whole. So why is this role important? Like I said, analytical development is the backbone of process development. You will never know if your process or product is working well until you have really good supporting analytics in place. And usually a process or a product gets transferred to the manufacturing team or the MSAT team, which is the one who's going to actually produce those doses, like I said, the commercial manufacturing scale. But then in parallel, what's happening is whatever has been developed on the analytical development side is also getting transferred to QC or quality control, because these are the people, the QC team is going to be the one who will do something known as final release testing. So this is the kind of test that FDA or Health Canada or any regulatory body is going to look at before the product is actually, product or process, whatever it is actually viable, commercial, and out in the market. Why I enjoy this role? Simply, I think because of the nature of a CDMO, we are dealing with a great variety of technical projects on a day-to-day basis. There is lots of people management. I really enjoy customizing, tailoring the same message to different people in ways that they can understand and deliver optimally. And then business development activities is something I realized I've started enjoying. This was something I was never involved in up until this point, but it's a nice new thing for me, and I really, really enjoy it a lot. What are the challenges? So something that I enjoy can also become challenges, right? So I said, people management is something I enjoy, but solving people issues, on the other hand, is a challenge too. It's something that we have to learn as a, think about it as a new skill, and it has to be learned as well. Again, not unique to OmniaBio, but all companies tend to have quick shift in priorities. Like suddenly overnight, sometimes it's like, a new program, something else has to be initiated. So that agility is very important. Those last minute meetings that can come into your calendars can really be a challenge, because you're doing that on top of the other things that you're supposed to do. And then, of course, because it's a CDMO deals with a huge number of technical projects, you also have to know what's happening in the field. So it's important to stay up to date in the field. Sometimes we have projects that are related to iPSC, sometimes it's CAR-T, sometimes it's lentiviral vectors, sometimes it is MSCs. So like so many different things, and obviously none of us are experts on everything. So you have to keep reading, that's a challenge. So what is the future career trajectory or career ladder for this role specifically? Like I mentioned, this is the management track in our company. And so the next role is senior development manager, director, senior director, VP. Now, that being said, for those who are not very fond of the people management aspects, we also have a technical ladder, similar to what Ursula was describing. So there is associate scientist 1, 2, 3, lead scientist 1, 2, 3. We have associate principal scientist, principal scientist. So that's another ladder that people can choose to take if they wish. Now, career planning advice in terms of soft skills, I think communication skills are super important. Collaboration, teamwork, as you can imagine, is going to be important because no one works individually here. In contrast to what we usually do as grad students or even postdocs. Sorry, Sunam, your hand is up.
It just of the
time. It's also important to pay attention to your EQ, or it's called emotional intelligence, emotional quotient skill, because you're interacting with different people and you really need to know what this is. So I'm sure most of you are aware, but if not, there's lots of material online. Please go through it. This is quite an important skill. This is not to say that you shouldn't be, adept in your technical skills. Of course, you should know what you're doing very well. That technical skills do come on the top, I think, but soft skills also play a major role. Did I take specific training or do I have certificates? Nothing in particular, but I did look at free courses for design of experiments or DOE on platforms such as Jump, and there might be others as well. A lot of it is actually on-the-job training. There are career development funds in most companies that you can take advantage of. So yeah, look out for any free courses, and I'm going to come to it later on. I think webinars and those things are going to keep you quite up to speed with what's happening in industry. It's also important for you to have stretch assignments. So yes, we all are working on our grad projects or postdoctoral projects, but in addition to that, it's a good idea to talk to your PI. If you're not comfortable with your PI, then go to your collaborator, someone, for some sort of stretch assignments where you can be contributing to some kind of an industry project, to a clinical trial, even something as simple as consenting patients into clinical studies. This is something I did, and I thought it was a very rewarding experience because you have to condense huge, technically complex material into very easily digestible material so that the patient can give you 20 ml of their blood, basically. So it's good. You're convincing people for something, and that's a great skill to have. The other thing I remember doing was we had a departmental meeting that I would be hosting. So scheduling, if there was a pizza lunch, then organize that, so on. Like these are simple things that you can do. Take on these additional responsibilities, they'll really go a long way in your careers. How do you keep up to date with industry or field trends? Webinars are so popular everywhere these days. Feel free to go to any company website and look at their webinars. Sign up for external newsletters. They really have good information on trends, recent successes, like recent wins, failures, everything of that industry on the whole and of that specific company. Blogs is another good way to keep yourself up to date. There are industry news channels such as Genome Web, This is specific for medical device, but there could be other specific for cell and gene therapy and other areas that you're interested in exploring. So sign up for all these extra things that will help you with industry terminology, to be honest. You have to know what is QC and what is QA and what's the difference between process development and research and development and so on. And this is where you'll pick up those differences. Other activities, look out for networking opportunities. We all attend conferences during our studies, right, as grad students or postdocs. The one thing that I never did at a conference was networking, unfortunately. I really wish I would have done that a bit more. So yeah, be bold. I know it's not going to be easy. Just be bold, talk to people you don't know, exchange business cards, tell them about your work, almost do like an informational interview, but do that. That's quite important. Mentorship programs, these are also very popular. So get an industry mentor. There are a couple of mentorship programs that I'm associated with that I can talk about those later as well. But you should have an industry mentor who will talk to you about their experience, guide you in the right path. For those who know that you're struggling in a specific area, maybe it is communication, maybe it is writing skills, whatever it might be, career coaching is a more formalized, structured way of trying to fix those gaps that you have. That's something you could explore. And then attending seminars such as this one. I think all this is going to go a long way. So that's my advice to all of you. And then this is just some quick tips, honestly. When you think of transitioning to industry, go step by step. So one component is resume writing and how nicely you can create a resume fit for the role you're looking at. Interview, the first round is going to be with the human resources team, and they are not very technical. So how do you want to, convey what you do to them is very important. The next round is technical, which will dive into all of what your projects did and, what are you an expert in. And I think Ursula mentioned differentiating yourself is very important. So that's your opportunity to showcase how you're different, why people should hire you, etc., etc. And then negotiation is the final piece before you get your job offer. So each of these need to be worked on individually. They look very simple, but there is a lot within them. So take a step back and go one by one on each of these points, and I think that will also help. And that's it from my side.
Great. So thank you both for that, for those presentations. And we will stop the recording now for the webinar.